Birds of Prey, issue 4, Legacy 202, Kelly Thompson with Leonardo Romero on the art. Yeah, this was delayed. Obviously, they're in the middle of the fighting all the Amazons. They've been trying to get Sin off Themyscira, and the alarms have started to sound. Diana's arrived. And a big chunk of this issue is the various fights as, like, you know, Zealot tries to keep Diana busy whilst the others are trying to get away. Which leads to a bunch of really fun sequences, one of which is Barda taking on Wonder Woman and doing relatively well because she's Barda and she's a big tough bitch, you know? So that was good fun. My favorite, though, is probably, like, it's quite quickly after that where there's like a swoosh and then Diana's like, what was that? And it's Cass, like, Batgirl's trying to take on Wonder Woman, and ultimately she's going to lose, and that's fine because Diana's, you know, Wonder Woman. But the fact that she, like, is able to keep her off her guard and, like, trick her and, like, make her look around her shoulder a few times, it's kind of like, oh, this is fist pump moment. It's like, yeah, Cass, you got it. Take her down.
It was one of these ones where you, like you said, you know that she's not going to defeat her, but Cass is going to leave an impression on Diana, you know, and that whole sequence Romero draws really great. The just Kelly Thompson, you can tell, has this affection for Diana because she draws her out like she's almost like this steamroller. Like, you're not gonna stop her, you're just gotta slow her down. Yet somehow even though I'm rooting for the birds, I'm also rooting for Diana. Because there's so much respect at play here.
It never treats Diana like she's the villain. Obviously, she's an antagonist in the context of this story because they have to work against her, but it never feels like she's been treated like, oh, she is, like, to be disliked, right? Yeah, like you say, there's a reverence for her, which, you know, fits really nicely with the ongoing Wonder Woman book. That's something that book's been doing great, is like this reverence for her every single issue. Yeah, this book even references the Wonder Woman run. One of the Amazons says, hey, the American military's declared war on us, pretty much. I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that reference, but I appreciate it. Also, when Barda's fighting Wonder Woman, she also does the Nightfall backbreaker to Diana, and so I can't believe that happened twice this week in two different comics.
Well, and I feel like this one, though, felt like an emotional, you know, for me as a wrestling fan, it felt like Roddy Strong when he finally could cut loose and hit his, you know, backbreaker, the end of Heartache, for the first time.
Nah, you're making a reference that 99% of the audience isn't.
That's fine.
Getting at all.
But it felt triumphant in this one.
It was built up to better in terms of its pacing. I will say, thematically, it makes more sense to do it in a Batman comics because it's referencing a Batman thing. However, this was the much better comic, so I enjoyed this one much more.
Yeah, but this is definitely paying homage to that, and for what it does is, you know, it still treats Diana as the hero. You know what I mean? Getting, you know, and Barda is kind of the Bane-esque, you know, unstoppable force until Diana gets back up, right? Like, you know, so this book had so many good things in there just with the fight scenes. Because, like, Zealot with all of the Amazons.
Yeah, she stays behind to take on, like, a bunch of the Amazons, and it cuts back to her at one point, and it's just all these quick panels of her swish, you know, her sword going swish, 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 and like she's taking on an army by herself. And they're not dead because they're all groaning and huffing and puffing on the ground, but, you know, she wins the fight. I also especially liked when we come back to the Cass fight with Wonder Woman. Cass gets knocked down by Wonder Woman, and I kind of love that Barda is like small bat and like she's pissed. It's like because by this point Barda's been knocked down, right? Barda got hit, her hat or her helmet got thrown off with a punch. Yeah. When she sees Cass go down, it's like she's reinvigorated to go back into the fight. And I'm like, you know what? This is only, issue 4? And you've already built up this loving relationship between Barda and Cass, where Barda wants to protect her, even though typically Cass is not someone who needs protecting. No. But this is Wonder Woman. I think
that's why it works, right? Because Barda has that same dynamic with Scott, with her husband. You know? So this is someone that she has, you know, love for in a platonic way with Cass. Is she likes the small bat because small bat is still scary, right? Even though she's small. So yeah, I thought that worked really, really well. Yeah, and that's Kelly Thompson with her
th-
dynamics.
this is what encourages her to grab the lasso, and Barda has kind of a badass moment here where she says, I don't fear your lasso because Barda only speaks truth. And just walks right up to Wonder Woman, like holding her, they're both holding the lasso, right? They're both not quite having like a struggle of strength or anything, but just kind of they're both gripping onto it. And Diana asks why they're here. Barda kind of tries to fight it for a second, but explains that they're here to save Sin because her being here will lead to Megara destroying the island and everyone on it. And of course, this is a good plot point because it cuts after this to like all the birds are in the jail cell, including Dinah, who's got like a muzzle on her face so she can't scream, which I thought was pretty funny.
But she can still talk, right? That's what we're getting.
It's faded out to imply that it's muffled because she's kind of talking behind something. But so
gotcha.
Imagine like so it's a little bit like Bane from Dark Knight Rises, I guess.
Yeah.
Like birds of prey. Yes. We are the baddest bitches on the Themyscira. We shall take down the Wonder Woman, yes. Dinah, what happened to your accent, Dinah? What are you talking about? I have no accent.
Pete just wants to do posh Bane. But yeah, because that was the thing with the art that the and the lettering is that Dinah, there's because the speech bubbles, there's not even really a bubble going towards her. It's almost how like when they do telepathic, almost like how they do telepathic stuff. So not that it was confusing because I got the point of what they were doing, but. She can still communicate, just not loudly.
What's important here is that Diana is like, okay, Barda said why they were here with the lasso, so she knows that it's true, or at the very least they believe that it's true. So it's like, okay, Sin's going to stick with me, and I'll protect her, because Diana would obviously want to be sort of kind of at the front of the battle, as it were. But then it's like, okay, but where's this Megara then? Where's this demon goddess that's coming for me? Like, what's happening with that? And they basically go into another room, and Penelope's been the one that's possessed, and there's like all this dark magic energy coming out of her. It's kind of like The Exorcist meets, I don't know, Ghostbusters or something like that. Like it's over the top. And it's like, oh shit, okay, so we've actually got a crisis here. And then there's this great little reveal that they never put Cass in the jail cell. Cass pops her head out from outside the jail cell where the rest of the birds are, and Canary's just like, were you ever even in here? And she's like, no. So Cass lets them all out. I got a good kick out of that. They get out of the jail cell and they see the explosion in the distance where this big Megara fight is happening, and they go running towards it. Diana gets tossed aside by the demon like she's nothing, which obviously is scary to them because, I mean, like you said, the whole issue, and even a lot of last issue, was building up the idea that we can't take on Diana. She's too powerful. So you have the villain toss her aside here at the start of the issue, or the end of the issue. It sells this idea that, okay, this is how scary this villain is. So we get this very almost horror movie, Lovecraftian final page of the big face of Megara looking down at them, and the birds get into like a fighting stance to try and like take her on. And it even says next time into the mouth of madness, which even just adds to. I mean, I wasn't even thinking that when I said Lovecraftian. That just links up with it perfectly.
Yeah, so I looked up Megara in Greek mythology.
Sure,
and she's one of the Furies, which are one of the ancient like female deities. Like they predate Zeus, and they're made from the blood of Uranus. So she specifically represents vengeance. So I feel like this is...
It's interesting that we're doing, that word fury popping up when Barda, of course, like, obviously not the exact same thing, but the idea of that word being there makes me think that her being on the team and this being the villain is a very intentional choice.
Yeah.
So in the same way that Zealots had her whole thing with the island, and she's not allowed to be here, and she doesn't want to kill anyone, and she did the whole spell thing to make sure she couldn't. It feels like they're doing interesting things to make it feel like every member of the team is in some way relevant to what's going on. I mean, we've not had it for all of them yet, but certainly a few of them now. Black Canary always had it because it was always her sister that was in trouble.
That's right.
So
and this is her mission. But yeah, so being also that she's the deity of like vengeance, that she's represented, she's almost like this concept that's as old as time itself. I feel that really adds up to the level of what they have to deal with. So
yeah.
But man, I'm so glad Kelly Thompson's writing this book.
Yeah, the visuals of Magira towards the end here, with all the swirly kind of almost veins that are coming out, if you want to call them that. It has a very... It looks very Eastern influenced in its design. That's really cool. If I'm looking... I think the art throughout the book obviously is very good. Romero's done such a good job, and I think there's that great 2-page spread that we kind of looked over because it wasn't really relevant to the other fights we were talking about. But whilst all those other fights were going on with Diana and Cass and Barda, Dinah, Harley, Sin were fighting against just random Amazons, and there's a great 2-page layout. And I think every issue's had a page like this, actually, now I think about it.
Yeah.
Where there's multiple versions and they're having the conversation throughout the fight, and there's no panels, it's just sort of going through it, kind of... Like, if this was in Nightwing, all the past versions would be faded out. But in this book, they don't do that. They just have them all be there, but you follow the conversation going down the page.
But when you follow it, too, because each of the characters gets closer from the background to the foreground.
Yes.
It makes it very cinematic, because there's a flow here that as you read it...
You almost feel like the camera's like tracking back, and you're revealing more things as we're going, yeah. And they do that purely throughout just the positioning of the characters and their speech bubbles. That's all that is. So it feels... Unlike that Amanda Waller book, or Waller Rising, this week, which felt like I was struggling to follow things at times, this made it look so easy. And it's not easy. A lot of thought went into this, but they make it look easy. And that's the impressive part.
Well, and that's the thing, too, is it was nice when we get here that this book just flowed. After reading those two Beast World books that were kind of slogs to get through, reading this... And it was a breeze, and just pleasant, and all the character stuff feels satisfying. Like, it was definitely, night and day, comparatively.
Absolutely. It was absolutely night and day. So, yeah, that's Birds of Prey. Really excellent. It's becoming one of my favorite monthly books from DC. What are you rating issue 4, Matt?
This is a 9.
Yeah, I'm trying to just like play devil's advocate in my head and see, can I argue against that? Is there a reason to go lower? And I don't think there is for me. I think it's arguably the best issue it's had so far. I'm going to go 9 as well.
Yeah.
So, very good.